Yes, good morning, everybody. Do I sound like the villain in a movie?
I think you have to throw your head back and
There we go. That's what I want. That's the way to start the morning. We got Phumi and Kanthan here in the studio with us this morning. We've got a chilly morning outside, and we've got things to do, people to see, places to go. It's exactly the way your Thursday should start. Good morning, beautiful people who are going to make the economy work. It's hard work, bearing the weight of responsibility of this economy is hard work.
And here we are, 6 a.m. doing our bit. Doing our bit to grinding the wheels on the economy.
When people eventually bury me, they better put philanthropist on my tombstone for all the fucking mornings I've woken up to make people smile and laugh. Or just think, or even cry.
Oh, philanthropist on your tombstone. Yesterday afternoon,
I am a philanthropist, don't you know?
So yesterday afternoon, I went to Tebogo Mahlatse's memorial, and it's so odd to be at a memorial for somebody like that.
Well, because he was so connected in the entertainment business. I mean, you must have seen a lot of famous people there.
Yeah, some famous people.
That was a good one.
Also,
by the way, if you were a star fucker, you would definitely, if you were some up and coming rising star in television, that would be a good place to go.
I don't know, but it definitely was because of being a director. So there were a lot of people that are behind the scenes. In fact, there were a lot more.
But that's why I'm saying for those,
if
you were some little starlet who wanted to step out of being,
that was not the place.
Oh, not?
No, everybody was there.
I thought funerals were. Isn't it acceptable anymore to job hunt at funerals?
It's been acceptable all this time?
I thought it was. I mean, I don't go to funerals, so I wouldn't know. But I'm pretty sure slay queens would go to funerals to pick people up or to change jobs.
I think certain people's funerals, maybe.
Especially if it's the blesser's funeral. That's a good place to find new blessers.
Ooh. No, but the blesser's dead. So
his friends. He's got rich friends. How else does he get tenders?
Ooh, funerals.
Is that not an appropriate place to be?
I don't know. I don't go to funerals. Okay. This was a memorial.
I don't know. I'm walking in the blind in the night like you, blind in the night.
And it was like, it's so surreal. You speaking of what they must put on your tombstone, it's so surreal because I don't think anybody ever thinks about what happens after that. And so last night, speaking to some friends at dinner, and the one guy was like, "When I am dead, don't have anything. The whole service must take 2 hours from when you start until I'm in the ground." I was just like, yeah, it's not about you. You have no idea what's going to happen when you're gone.
You have no control.
People are going to do whatever the hell they want.
You have no control either, right? There's nothing you can do.
Also, you're dead. You don't know.
The nice thing is that most people are extremely stupid. And they are extraordinarily pious. And after someone dies, they will say only nice things. So you are in a fortunate position that if you were a genocidal, pedophile rapist who invaded Poland, they would still say, he was a good father to at least one of his kids. He started a company in which he paid people slave wages, but they had jobs. He created jobs. They'll find things to say about you. And people, especially in South Africa, we're so careful around dead people. You know this. I know this through hard experience. I mean, Manto Shabalala Msimang, you'll never forget that. I mean, turns out I was right, but okay. Who cares? Because my timing was horribly off when I called her a genocidal maniac who drank her way through 3 livers. And then I had to apologize to the family because it was like, oh, but Gareth, you can't say this because of people's feelings. I'm like, she was in the public eye. She was in government. We're all allowed to have opinions about her. She used that to get the extra livers. Why can't I talk about her in a non-flattering way after she's gone? But I think it's important to consider what people will say about you when you're gone.
Really?
What's the point of living your life as if you don't care, and then your legacy is nothing? I mean, you want to leave a legacy, whether it's through your kids. I mean, in your case, your greatest legacy is going to be Kanejo, right? Because he'll be alive when you're gone. One day.
Hopefully.
One day. And he will carry on things that you've taught him and do things that you kind of inculcated in him as a kid, the values, all of those things, and maybe make the world a much better place. That would be the greatest thing that could be done. What is it, Ryan? What do you want?
Pumi's camera here.
You're fixing Pumi's camera?
Yes.
What are you doing?
What's going on here? It's very odd that I didn't even notice that she'd gone off here. See, I'm not paying attention. This morning, by the way, we got in and we couldn't.
We're locked out.
Yeah, we couldn't get into the studio. Someone had locked the room here and taken the key. Why does that happen, by the way? Why does it switch off like that? Give me the boring technical shit right now.
Shaky USB.
Oh, shaky USB. Thanks, Phumi. Shaky USB port. Okay. Well, we'll have to fix that. Anyway, so we eventually broke in. No, luckily we found somebody with a key at just the right moment.
It's an on-site person. I see someone like he is talking about Eusebius, and this is an unfolding saga. Did you see that about what happened
at the funeral?
At the funeral and the memorial.
Hilarious.
I
thought it was hilarious.
Did you? Were you watching? Did you see
it? I didn't
Why?
watch it.
So
you think I'd watch Eusebius? I couldn't bear to listen to his shows while he was on radio. You think I could watch his funeral?
I'm still like a little blinkety blink about the fact that these people had the lining of the coffin with their logo.
That isn't the thing that was fucked up about that funeral. It was the fact that they dropped him and he almost fell out. Yes. I mean, it's the most undignified funeral I've ever heard of for a person of public interest. Anyway, did they broadcast his funeral?
I think they had a Zoom or whatever, a digital link.
Can you imagine the kind of people who'd watch that?
This is the innovation that COVID has given us. That
Bakabantu says that Eusebius' family is suing Avbob. But it's a bit morbid. What, because they put the logo on the lining of the coffin?
They put a logo everywhere. They put a logo on the lining of the coffin. They put a logo on the tombstone. They apparently they wanted to put up like, those teardrop.
That's so embarrassing.
Those things that like at events that you have with teardrop banners is what they're called.
Tacky has a new name, Avbob.
I'm like, what are these?
So are the family...
Was there some kind of meeting?
Was there some kind of deal that
they
did?
No, they paid for everything, and these fuckers still wanted to like.
Did they pay? Because Avbob is saying they didn't.
Well, they're saying they absolutely paid.
This is just perfect for Eusebius. I think this is what he would want. Is like bickering and fighting when he's gone. I tell you, this is what he would want.
Yeah.
He was always in life. He was a bickerer and a fighter. This is what he would want.
Can you imagine the meeting? The meeting where the Avbob people sat and thought, you know what? This is going to be
our
streamed.
Opportunity. Yeah,
there's going to be. It's very similar to your saying funerals are a good place to fish for new blessers,
right?
Because that's what they were doing, right? They were like
fishing for new dead bodies,
fishing for new clients.
I think funeral homes and funeral people. What do they call those people who officiated? I mean, who run the funeral directors? What do they call them?
Yeah.
I think these are very, very, there are two kinds. There are the ones who are extremely stoic, brave, clever business people who go about it unemotionally and are able to also remember that this is something very, very sad and difficult for the people who are involved every time. And they put on their game face and they go out there, it's business. And then there are these people who end up in that business because it's just like the only place they could go. And they're these morbid, weird people. Like grave diggers. There always used to be this terrible taboo about grave diggers.
Really?
Yeah. Because these are the people who are at the bottom of the food chain.
So I have friends whose family business.
I think you told me about them.
Yeah.
They must be making an absolute killing at the moment.
And they're the most hilarious people. I think if they would be so much better viewing than any of the stuff, than any of the Real Housewives stuff that we've got on TV right now. I think if they had
Right.
cameras on them all the
Right.
time, because that business, because everybody that they deal with is emotional, right? And black families around funerals
It's very
have
serious.
got
It's very serious.
hey, but there's always an uncle with the view, and there's always like the
Well,
bickering and the fighting. It's
Slippery
a-
Pickle agrees that Avbob are slimy bastards. So there we go. I wonder how this is going to happen.
now that we're having the conversation about funeral directors, at Whitney Houston's funeral,
Oh, it's a while
you
ago.
should
What happened there?
you should Google the picture. The lady who was the funeral director,
Mhm.
she owns and she's like, older black lady, small, and I think she wore like a gold jacket and walked in front of the cottage.
Oh, no,
as
you're
they
kidding.
She was great. She was in her moment. She was in her
Really?
superstar moment. It was wonderful.
Jeez. I mean, listen, it is a chance for some people to grandstand, right? And they do love it.
Yeah.
I suppose, most people during the course of their lives don't get a whole lot of attention. And then when they finally find something where they can be the center,
Bless you.
I don't know what's going on with me this morning, of attention, then they make themselves a nuisance. Look, you see, you're such a mom, carries tissues around. She's so organized, this Phumi Mashiko.
Hey, it's that time of the year. Hey.
So, I mean, my point is, for most people, their wedding and their funeral are the occasions in their life they'll get the most attention.
Center of...
They might not have birthday parties. Who knows? Maybe they can't get anyone to come to their birthday parties, but they'll definitely have a funeral. Everyone gets a funeral. So I suppose for many people, that's their moment. It's ironic that it's too late, but it's their moment to shine. It's a big show.
Hectic.
I take your view. Like, nobody cares, because once you're dead, there's nothing you can do about it.
The people who do all these things,
There's
care,
nothing. You can do nothing.
You're gone.
You're finished. It's over for you. Over's cadavers. Over's cadavers. What does Harry Potter's enemy Voldemort say? Avada Kedavra. That's what I'm going to say at funerals. I'll just go over to the coffin and go, Avada Kedavra. Then it's done, All right. So what are we doing today? We've got the burning platform a little bit later on. Very exciting. Phumi and I are hugely excited to bring you the burning platform today. And we've got Sihle Ngobese, who's making his triumphant return to the show.
Oh, we haven't spoken to him in a while.
No, we haven't. So you saw Musi Maimane, and this doesn't fit into the burning platform, even though it's got to do with Musi Maimane. So you saw him on The Masked Singer. Did you? Or did you just hear about it?
No,
you watched the show.
I saw it. I don't watch the show. I was in KZN this weekend, so I don't normally watch the show, but I will see all of the after effects, right? Because it often gets a lot of social media play afterwards.
Right.
For those of you who haven't seen what The Masked Singer is, it's an international format show, and they have celebrities in a mask or in an outfit, and they sing and dance, and there's a panel of, I think, 4 judges.
I get the basic idea.
Yeah, we're
it's
trying
a new
to figure
iteration
out.
of these talent shows.
It's not really
but
a
it's
talent
also a
show.
guessing game.
It's kind of a guessing game of who could that person be? Who is the person that sings like that? Because it's not singers, right? Who sings like that? Who dances like that? Who could this person be? And they give clues. And this past weekend
It was Musi,
my man.
But could he sing?
Yeah. He's a muruti. You can't be a muruti, Baba, if you can't sing. You must be able to hold the tune.
Did you guess who it was?
No. I never try and guess. But you know it.
Do you think it's good for his, do you think this is good for his political career?
This is what I was asking myself. Whose damn idea was this? Do they think this is... It was like being in the Twilight Zone. When I saw that, it was like being in the Twilight Zone. I was like, this is marketers or kind of like the marketing team behind Musi and Busa going apeshit. They're just like, any moment to put you in front of a big audience,
Yeah,
and
they still
people are
think-
going to get to like you and
that
get
is
to
such
know
a
you.
that's such an old way of thinking, isn't it?
I was just like,
I don't know.
we've
I
got
don't
real
know. I
problems.
really don't know.
We've got real problems, and I don't know if you being like a singing, dancing. We've had a singing
a
and
bit of a
dancing
joke.
president.
Yeah,
We've
like
had
a-
a singing, dancing president,
You,
and
yeah,
I don't know if South Africans are looking for that again. But it
I
was
can promise you they're not.
it was crazy. It was so weird. It was such Twilight Zone is the closest way I can describe what it is.
Oh my god. So what did he sing? What was the song?
I don't even you see, this is the thing. I don't even remember what he sang.
Oh.
It was such a vanilla moment, but also such a strange thing to want to do at a time when all of us are just like,
You know what Musi should have sung? Elevator music. I know there isn't any vocal in it, but that would have been perfect for him because he's like an elevator music kind of person.
no, like the song we listen to when you're testing the speakers on StreamYard.
Oh, wait, you know what? Here's the song. I've actually got a recording of it. You want to hear what he sang? You ready? This is what he sang, and he sang it specially for the DA. That's right. It's just a short song, you motherfuckers. I hope that you get run over by a car. The asshole you are, you ugly fuckers. Yeah, come on, Musi, take it away. Oh! Da, 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 da. That's what he sang. You don't pretend you didn't remember the song.
Kimuruti, Gareth.
Well,
Kimuruti, he would never sing such.
I think he would sing that song. Anyway, we got a lot of things to get into this morning. You want to talk about some stories in the news? Because, I mean, people are always, they wake up in the morning, they want to know what's happening in the world. Let's take a look, Phumi.
Why?
I'm going to try and say this without sounding like I'm falling asleep. Section 194 inquiry may conclude earlier due to Mqwebane ignoring deadlines. No, I think I'm going to just ignore that story. Can we save that for the burning platform?
Move
if it's
on.
in, we don't care, right?
Nah.
Okay, good. Thank God. Mashatile backtracks on plot claim after meeting Ramaphosa. Did you know that there was a plot going on?
Well.
Should we also save this for the burning platform? You got to save some fuel for that fire.
You know, last night when we were getting some of the topics, Dory said you wanted to talk about when was the last time there was a sex scandal.
Yeah, I did. I threw that question in. So I sent all of those questions because we haven't had a good sex. You know why? Because it's not a thing in our country.
Listen.
We don't care about sex scandals.
Yeah.
We don't.
But we're too conservative.
I don't.
Although Paul
We seem to
is
ignore.
but Paul
Yeah.
is in a
He's in a sex scandal.
He's in a bit of a sex scandal.
Oh,
He's in a bit of a sex
Paul
scandal.
Mashatile, huh?
Yeah.
He's looking like that. He can
Because
get
he just-
poontang.
What are you talking about? He just got married. His wife passed away, unfortunately.
Looking like that, he can get poontang. I'm going to stick to
like
my
2 years
guns on this
ago.
one. Yeah, but he's back in the sack clearly because
he
this is what
just
we
got
heard.
married.
Phumi, we heard that he was busy
then-
lining up women in Cape Town. Yeah, this is the story.
That's the story. But he's in a whirl. Like the newspapers are all over him. He's got a 37 million rand mansion in Waterfall.
Mm.
I was like, what? Waterfall
sounds
has
nice.
37 million rand.
And this is where
37 million rand house.
and Paul has been in politics his whole life.
Yeah.
So
He's worked for a party that sometimes doesn't pay its staff. And 37
I don't know
million rand
how.
house.
Frankly, I don't know why SARS don't just comb through these places where you find 37 million rand houses and just do lifestyle audits on everyone. Aren't we looking for tax revenue, Edward Kisvetter? Jesus, they'll go after you and me if we 500 rand short on our tax return, right?
When they're going after Trevor Noah's mother.
I mean, come on. They'll go after people like that, but they will not touch someone who's living in a 37 million rand house whose whole job has always been paid by the public purse or by a party that can't afford to pay its own workers. Outrageous. All right, let's leave that alone too. We'll get to that
But
later.
but you know who else is in a sex scandal that is making a re-emergence?
Who?
You will never guess.
Go on.
Fikile April Mbalula.
Really?
And I have no idea. This is a story that
Really?
It's a story that made headlines in like 2017 or something. And for some odd reason, this whole thing has come back to, I don't know why, it's come back to bite him quite literally. Quite literally in the ass. So he's also got and his sex scandal has got everything.
Tell me more.
Oh yeah, it's got payoffs.
Oh really?
It's got payoffs. It's got a model. It's got salacious WhatsApps.
Wow. I don't know if that, some people you want to imagine having sex and other people you don't. Like Fikile, I don't want to imagine having sex.
I never want to imagine anyone having sex.
I think there's some people you want to think about having sex.
Like who?
There's some hot people in the world that you wouldn't mind seeing.
No.
Oh, come on, Phumi. Really? You're so prudish that there's no one?
It is not prudish.
You've never met anyone and thought,
I wonder what they look like when they have sex.
Yes.
No one looks good having sex.
Nonsense. Are you discounting the entire porn industry that is one of the biggest things in the world?
But it is not because it looks good.
It
is not because it looks good.
Well, I'll tell you, if they hired ugly people, it would look a whole lot worse. Well, Clint from the Val says that Waterfall Equestrian has 100 million rand houses. So Paul lives in one of the shittier
parts of
outhouses in that area. I recently read on Twitter that all of Waterfall is actually owned by Muslims. No, it's not Muslims. It's a family called the Mears.
It's a family called the Mears.
They got a 100-year lease.
99-year lease.
From Paul Kruger, which must have expired at some point.
No, but those properties, all those properties are on 99-year leases. So it's not an outright sale.
Wow.
So you've got a 37 million rand house or 100 million rand house on leased.
Here we go. Ricky Lowe says, Margot Robbie. I'd like to see her having sex. Thank you very much, Ricky.
Here we are again. Barbie.
Come on, Gareth. How dare you? These are previously disadvantaged bums. SARS will definitely not touch them, motherfuckers. Thank you, Mac. Slippery Pickle says, last time Fikile Mbalula had sex was when he was dropped off at those donkey carts in the Northern Cape, wasn't it? Hey, listen, he's having more sex than you, Carl, for all you know. Sounds like it from the sound of things. He's cleaning up. Old Fikile. I saw pictures of him last night because I follow him for my sins. I follow some people just purely out of morbid fascination. So here he is. He was at a Freedom Park event.
You don't have to follow him to see him. Like, did I say this to you when he became the Secretary General? That we're about to have
a PR offensive.
The craziest 5 years.
I mean, offensive, PR offensive.
Because the man will have a press conference for anything.
Dropping of a hat. Here he is. He was at the memorial type honor. They were bringing honor to Ronnie Mamwepa. Ronnie Mamwepa was actually not a bad guy. But look at who had attracted this. So Fikile is sitting next to Lindiwe Sisulu, who's just such a waste of space. I can't believe. Now, there's another person who's just venal beyond belief. If she didn't have that surname, we would not pay a single shred of attention to this woman. You'd walk past her in Hyde Park Shopping Center and ignore her. And she would be a nobody for the rest of her life. She'd just be a struggle brat. She would have tried to live on some kind of legacy from her parents, which she is doing, but she's doing it in politics. And look who else was there.
There you go.
Yeah. See? So you see, this is interesting. Guess who else was there?
They
were all there.
Please go one back. Let me see this. So is that behind him? Is that Ronnie Mamwepa's
it's a logo. Oh, someone was paid. Look at that little M. Someone was paid. It looks
a little bit like it looks like an embellishment of the MasterChef logo.
It does. It looks like the MasterChef logo. That's exactly right.
I actually thought it was a MasterChef logo.
I think they take the MasterChef logo and then they chop out a piece of that M. And someone probably charged the family or the ANC.
Why does Ronnie Mamwepa have a logo?
I don't know. Especially when you're dead, what's the point of a logo? Anyway, I mean, he he wasn't actually a terrible person, Ronnie Mamwepa. He was actually one of the smarter people. The reason that the ANC of today has to bring so much of a focus on past giants is because they have no present giants.
Yeah, and it's also, it's also in the dying moments of many relationships where all these grand gestures are.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's
all
what this
performative.
is. It's all these grand gestures
Yeah,
that
it's
are
performative as hell.
because sham.
Shem is right. Carl says he also imagines Margot Robbie having sex all the time. Phumi does not understand porn. I think this is a gap in your education, Phumi. This is something you just don't get, right?
Listen, I understand porn very much for the space that it holds in society, in giving you an insight into some of the more bizarre things that happen out there. Like, only in porn will you ever see midgets having sex.
Yeah, that doesn't interest me. I mean, I don't mind. I'm entertained by midgets in real life. I went on Rian van Heerden's show the other night. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I went on his. He does this sort of late night talk show thing, and it's just one guest and him. He's got a little restaurant in there.
Oh wow!
So it's clever. He sits down with you for an hour or so, and you just do a bit of a career retrospective, and you talk a little bit about what you care about and politics and all that kind of thing. It was a very nice show, and I have lots of time for Rian, so I agreed to it. I would normally say no to any interview, and by the way, not because I think I'm important. The reason you get me here 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. How much more of me do you want? I mean, really, how much more of me could you have time for? Who has all this time for listening to my bullshit? So this is enough. Anyway, I go on his show, and his surprise is this this person. I really, I've never seen anybody this different and bizarre in my life. So you're gonna enjoy it. You'll see. I've given you too many clues already, but you'll see the show. So it's on. I think it's on CakeNet, and I think it's happening next week. But I'll find out so we can be absolutely sure. Just like Google.
Did you have a whole interview in your other doll?
No, I did a little bit in Afrikaans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so fluent that I could do all of it,
really?
Which is embarrassing. I should be, but I tried. It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge. But I tried. Phumi, you need to sit with John T. Searle, says Max Sony.
Yeah. John T is one of my favorites. One of my favorite.
Can I tell you,
Cliff Central alum.
Just admit, like, porn is not a topic on which you are extremely well versed, and that's not an embarrassing thing to admit.
No, it's not.
So everybody has their place. Max Sony, you can be our porn person when we need to discuss these subjects. You can be our man on the spot.
J.P. Russell says, just like Google, stay away from the second page on porn sites.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. But Pumi's forte is to read all the pages of every judicial commission of inquiry and then bring it to us and help us understand it.
In bite-sized chunks.
She doesn't have time for porn, please. And by the way, I mean, Ancient Ether says porn is such a dark world. Who knows what the fuck is out there? Well,
there's a really great podcast about the world of porn, and
don't tell me you've been secretly listening to this, and now you are an expert.
In particular, called The Butterfly Effect.
Oh yeah. I thought the butterfly effect was that tramp stamp that slutty girls sometimes have right above the crack of their ass. Is that not a butterfly effect?
Maybe that's why they called the porn.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I always feel like I used to just, like any teenage boy or guy in my 20s or 30s or whatever, I'd always like just, you don't think emotionally about porn at all. It's just a visual stimulation thing. But then, like, I something weird happened, and I started to think, oh, I wonder who this girl's family are. And it spoilt it for a while. Now, thank God I snapped out of that quickly enough. But I used to look at this stuff and go, oh no, I hope she doesn't have kids. Oh, how she could explain that weird move that she just pulled to the children?
Oh no. Well, do you remember Blue Lagoon?
No. No, I don't know what that is. What is Blue Lagoon?
Well, so the other day I watched.
Sounds like an old age home.
Well, it's actually a soft porn film, which
Oh,
many years ago,
Wow.
in the early days of Mnet,
I
when they
take back
still had-
everything I said about Phumi not being a resource for discussing even a subject like porn. Look at her. She knows everything.
Listen
You know
to me.
everything, Phumelele.
Just listen
Jesus,
to me.
you're a mine of information this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to put porn expert on your strap line here.
So no, man. Years ago, when Mnet, before DSTV, when
Yeah.
there was still just Mnet,
Mhm.
and they used to have an 11 o'clock movie in the morning, like
Right.
11 o'clock movie.
Yeah.
And that would be like their rerun or whatever. Blue Lagoon was on. It was like school holidays or whatever.
Is this at night?
No,
During the day?
The day, Baba. 11 a.m.
What kind of savage watches porn during the day?
Listen, but this Blue Lagoon,
Weekday. Well, like it's just Housewives.
la Baba. This was, you know how they always had the films on rotation on Mnet, right?
Yeah.
So the 11 a.m. film was one of the rotations that
Huh.
they had. So whatever they had on their roster would
Right.
also come up at
Okay.
the 11. I mean, I'm sure when they had Fatal Attraction on Mnet, it was on that 11 a.m. slot at some point as well. But Brooke Shields was that was one of the
Brooke
first
Shields, huh?
mainstream films that she was on. So before that, and she was only and the whole time they're like she and in this lagoon type, it's like a coming of age story. She and this pretty young boy, I don't even remember what his name was, in this lagoon, this paradise, and they're like half naked the whole time, and they're just like frolicking in
Lagoon.
this.
I'm looking it up right now, and I'm astonished. You're teaching me new things. Blue Lagoon, huh? Yeah.
And she was like 12 or something when they made that film. She was a child.
Shame. They shouldn't have done that then. I mean, maybe that's what ruined Brooke, because Brooke Shields went a bit crazy, didn't she? Wasn't she married to Andre Agassi for a while?
Yes, she was married to Andre Agassi.
So yesterday, because I'm into tennis now, that it's Wimbledon.
Because it's Wimbledon?
Yeah, I mean, like even people who are not into tennis are into Wimbledon, right? We got a new client on board last week, Super Bets. So I was extra interested because I placed a bet. No, I did. I placed a bet. So I was on. So there was the Eubanks Medvedev match. I'm not going to talk about this too much now because we've got sport tomorrow. Anyway, I was very.
And you'll be oversported.
I was very involved in this tennis match, and then I got thinking about tennis, and I switched over to another channel where there was also tennis. And you remember Kim Clijsters?
Yeah.
She at one point dated Leighton Hewitt, the Australian.
Yeah.
Right. And Kim Clijsters was like, she was between like the Monica Seles generation and the Serena generation. Kim Clijsters. Anyway, has she ballooned? Has she suddenly become
now you have to find us a picture.
Has she become a porker or what? No, Shame, I'm being unfair. What she's done is she's just become normal size, because these tennis players have unbelievable. These female tennis players are like, they're slim. And they just look little. Like,
listen,
they're magnificent.
Martina Navratilova still comes to these. And she's still
good shape. And
she's still in,
well, she's let's not say good shape. She's, because it's not my kind of shape, but let's just say she's still fit.
She has kept.
Yeah, she's kept her
physique.
Physique is a good word. That's a good word. Anyway, poor old Kim Clijsters has not. She was playing a doubles match, and she was. Again, I don't want to be unfair here, because who knows what I'll look like if I had to like go on a tennis court in little shorts and a t-shirt.
So
was
she sitting out there watching? And the camera panned to her? The commentators spoke about her?
The commentators, of course, won't say anything, because you can't say anything that's even vaguely insulting or politically incorrect.
No, but they don't have to have said anything about
please.
her shape.
People
They could have just
careful.
said,
She let herself go. What are they going to say?
In the years of.
What am I going to say? Back in the days
the
when she
years
was.
haven't been kind.
That's a terrible thing to say. That's worse than any. So here she is.
Wow.
Okay, it's not.
This is not normal
she's
size.
not-
She's bigger than normal.
Okay, but she's not like. Look, she looks like a lot of moms in Joburg. Okay, and that's not the worst. I don't want to be unkind, but
no, she does look like a lot of moms.
I really don't think that. I think it's great that she even went and did this doubles match. I mean, they bring out all the veterans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I got into the tennis. I watched that for a little bit. Then I went back to Medvedev and Eubanks. Then I saw a little bit of this Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Listen to this, Phumi.
Yeah.
Pumi's my
You are
Pumi's
now
camera's
out
off again, Ryan.
You are listen, you have applied yourself. Is it because
I've
you're
applied
betting?
myself. Listen, when I pour myself into something, I go all the way, Phumi. This is what I do. Now I'm into tennis. Who knew? Here I'd be sitting talking to you about Carlos Alcaraz.
I want you to know, producer Ryan, that I
Yes.
did not touch
That's
No.
okay.
this.
Ryan,
I did not touch this.
What's going on here?
I didn't
Well,
touch the camera. I didn't
is
touch
this?
the
Gareth,
screen.
you
I
You got
did
Mickey Mouse
nothing.
equipment here?
You watching sport and placing bets and Pumi's talking about
He's
sport. It's
freaking
a
out.
whole-
I know. It's probably
whole
the
situation.
The machine
This
can't
is-
handle it.
It's also its own twilight zone.
This machine is thinking, what's going on here? They're not used to me talking sport. They're not used to any of this stuff. All right, thank you, Ryan.
It's its own twilight zone.
Poor
Yeah.
Ryan. I got here this morning and he was stuck outside the door, and he's so he gets in quite rightly. He gets into a bit of a
He's
a
in
panic. Yeah, he gets into a bit of a panic and he tries to disguise it and he pretends he's calm, but I can tell like inside he's doing 1,000,000 kilometers an hour. And he's like phoning people and trying to figure out and I'm like, well, we'll just break down the door. He's like, you can't break down the door?
Did you
Yeah, we
say
can.
that?
Well, I was just teasing him. I'm going to break down the door. So we'd have been 2
He's
minutes
intense.
late for the show.
He can be intense, producer Ryan, in these mornings.
Johnny says, tell Ryan to spit on the USB before he puts
Aye,
it back
man.
in. Oh, wow. So here's a good point from Sanele. Sanele, I'm glad you're back in the comments with force because we were worried that you'd something terrible had happened to you. Sanele says, Gareth, Google Sofia Vergara at 51. There's 25-year-olds who look older than her. I'll tell you, it goes both ways, hey. We've been massive supporters on this show of Sofia Vergara at what, 51? Is that what you said? 51. Let's see. Mein Gott. Mein Gott. Heilige Gott. Ich verstehe nicht. Listen, this is something
What
else.
is going on here?
Holy mother of God. This woman is just Sofia Vergara. So I never really got into Modern Family, but if I did find it on while I walked past the TV and she happened to be in the scene, I would watch a little bit.
Scintillating.
Yeah, suddenly I'd find it very fascinating. It's amazing how that works.
She's 51, guys.
Yeah. To compare her to Kim Kleisters, let me show you this. This woman is 51 years old. Let me tell you, we had Laura Maisel on yesterday. She was talking about how she got married and she's now 60. She only got married.
Really?
Yeah, she got married last year. She's 60. This goddamn camera.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
For me.
The next time he comes in
this
here,
Sofia
I'm
Vergara.
going to see what
Look
he's
at
doing.
this. Look at Sofia Vergara. Just take a look. Have a gander at that.
this.
That's something to see. She's 51 years old. Mamma mia.
Eesh.
What is she? Did you think she has some kind of deep, dark secret that the devil's made a pact with her to look that good? How is this possible?
Hey.
I could just look at that the whole time. Tabo says, put it on the screen. It is on the screen.
It is on the screen.
You pervert.
Tabo.
It's been on there a long time. Sure. Wow, you compare that to poor old Kim Kleisters. Sure. It's a different universe, huh? Some people just have all the luck. I think that's genes more than anything else. She's Colombian or something, isn't she?
Yeah. She is.
Jesus.
Mm.
God bless you, Sofia Vergara. Some
Maybe it's
Latinas age
something.
well.
Maybe it's something in the
Kidding me.
Sophia name because Sophia Loren also looked quite
She looked good until
for
her
a long-
80s.
for a
Yeah.
very long time.
I'll tell you what.
So maybe there's something in the name Sophia.
Sianda says there's a video of Salma Hayek in the pool she posted recently.
Aibo, guys.
Salma Hayek. Let me tell you, that woman.
Now here we are perving over older women.
Yeah, shut up. I could do this all morning, Phumi. What are you talking about? What are you done? We gave you all the time you wanted for porn. Now you leave us alone. All right? Do you know how clever this Salma Hayek is? Okay, so first of all, I found the video. Of course, it took me 2 seconds to find a picture.
Salma in
I'll
the
show
pool.
you. I'll show you a still of her coming out of the pool. Okay, so she is how old? Let's take a look here. Oh, look at here. 56 years old is Salma Hayek.
Hi.
But you know what's amazing about her? Is she married Francois Pinault's son.
What?
The guy who's going to inherit MVH, what are you?
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton, all of those luxury brands. One of the richest men in the world.
LMVH.
That's the one. You see, only women know that. You can never remember what it's called. Sofia Vergara married that dude, a French
Sofia Vergara or
not Sofia,
Salma
sorry,
Hayek.
Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek? Who the hell? All right, here she is. Here's Salma Hayek getting out of the pool. Anyway,
is this like a recent video?
Listen, forget about the way she looks. She looks terrific, but I'm telling you, there's a more important story here. Ryan, can we just throw this cable away, or is it the laptop?
Is there something that we
it's the
can do? We might have to wait for.
All right, I'm just going to put
15
my
minutes
camera
from. Put your camera on. 15 minutes from now, we'll swap cameras. Is that? Okay,
We're getting very distracted by this. I apologize to the audience. And I mean the cameras. I'm not even talking about Salma Hayek. But she did. She married the guy who is François-Henri Pinault. She married him in 2009. He is worth, let me just tell you what he's worth, this man. But gazillions. Let me tell you what he's in charge of here. Okay, so he is the chairman and CEO of Kering, Kering. All right. They own Balenciaga, Bottega, Gucci, Alexander McQueen, Yves Saint Laurent, and Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
This man is loaded. They reckon
he's Hennessy
and Hennessy, like basically all the brands that all the pathetic people down the line put on their social media.
This
guy
how much money they
owns all
cut out of this country.
Sweet
thanks
Jesus.
to...
Yeah, well, because we've got conspicuous consumption going on all around us, right?
You've seen the queue. Listen, on any given day, the queues outside that Gucci and Louis Vuitton store in Sandton, it's like there's a Capitec ATM inside.
That'll tell you what everybody needs to know. So, by the way, he also controls the Pinault Collection, which is a legal entity holding the artistic and cultural assets of the family. It manages an art collection worth billions. I met the father in Venice.
Wow.
We pitched a TV show to him. He has an art collection. I mean, in Venice, that would beg your belief. This family are worth so much money. And it's Salma Hayek, who's had this incredible movie career. She's been in movies with Tom Cruise. She's got her own star on the Hollywood
Hayek
Walk of
from
Fame.
Dusk Till Dawn.
But
Who can forget?
That's one of the best movies ever. But she's also smart as a button. Look who she married. What a clever woman.
Wow.
And by the way, good for him, because instead of him having ugly French children, he's going to have beautiful kids with Salma Hayek. God, what a life. I'll tell you what, if I come back as anybody else in my next life, I would like to come back as François-Henri Pinault or as Salma Hayek. The two of them, that's just a win, right?
It's amazing.
Oh, my God. Anyways, look at the Lebs are always trying to claim some glory here. Salma's Lebanese. That's why she's gorgeous. Is she really? The Lebs will do this about anything, really. I don't believe you. I don't. Sophia's personality is amazing. Yeah, that's also good. You're smart if you avoid Tom Cruise. And she did. Salma Hayek, she was in movies with him, but she avoided him. She didn't become friends with him because he's a weirdo.
He's a weirdo.
I saw the strangest interview with him the other day, Tom Cruise. He's being interviewed by some Australian journalist for 60 minutes or something. And the guy got into Scientology. And Tom got so super defensive and aggressive.
Wow.
In the interview. He was basically like, little punchy little Tom. You could suddenly see all those insecurities brew up. And I do not understand this. You're Tom Cruise. You are the biggest movie star in the world, even now, right? Like his movie was one of 3 that rocketed to the top of the box office when he did Top Gun. It's
this
like,
latest Top Gun.
he is
This
so-
not
I know.
Top Gun, Mission Impossible.
the new one.
This
And
new
Mission
Mission
Impossible as
Impossible.
well. They all hits. This guy's a winner when it comes to doing what he does. He looks amazing for his age. He has had the most beautiful wives and girlfriends. And yet he's so insecure about this. You ask him about
he's
Scientology,
also-
he
he's
gets
also one
super
of those
tense.
that's
And
like, he's also one of those that's got an age limit to the kind of woman he can have next to him.
Well,
Like when they
I think-
become 30, he has
no,
to
I think
take care of them.
they go.
When they become 30, they get smart.
They get smart. They get the hell out of there. You hear the car accelerate out of the driveway, and they turn 30. Oh, there's your camera again. They turn 30, and it just out of there. It's unbelievable. Jesus. Anyway, the biggest, shortest movie star in the world. Yeah, whenever you see Tom Cruise in an interview, you get the idea that he's so groomed. He knows exactly what lines to deliver. It's also manufactured. I like the guy, but he's just weird. You get almost like a fake human impression out of him. You know what I mean?
He is strange.
Yeah.
He's actually very, very, very strange. I haven't seen a lot of interviews with Tom,
You don't want
but the ones that I have seen, like there's the one where he jumps on Oprah's couch.
That's the ultimate show that the guy's insane. And that was when he was declaring his love for Katie Holmes. Sweet Lord, what a mess. That was when I suspected there might be something not okay. Yeah, up to then I was fine with Tom Cruise. I was like, there's nothing wrong with this dude. No. Oh, Lord, we beseech thee. This guy needs some help. All right, so while Ryan's busy sorting out the cameras and so on, I don't know what we're doing here, Ryan. He's piling books on top of each other. He's trying to sort things out for Phumi here. It's just unbelievable.
And all the
Whatever's
books
going
he's
on there.
piling on top of each other are not straight.
You know,
so it's like my OCD.
So
is-
we got these fancy cameras in the studio, and here we are putting Phumi back on a laptop camera. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's
because
beautiful.
that camera is very fancy. That camera is very fancy. And
Boermakaplan,
it
hey
does
Ryan.
all sorts of
Boermakaplan.
amazing things. He showed me how it works.
West Rand Boermakaplan. Ryan, while
West
you're
Rand.
here, there's a little one of those capsules. Make me a cup of coffee. Make yourself useful.
No, I might need to warm this one.
All right. So Tom is rude, says Gabriella.
Tom is rude.
We flew him in SA on a charter. He was so rude to the pilots.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
he is weird. And you know, John Travolta is also a Scientologist, but John Travolta doesn't have those weird vibes.
you don't think he's a bit weird?
He's
Are you
not like
kidding me?
Tom. It's not like Tom.
I don't know. I got some very weird vibes out of John Travolta, even in his movies. He's a strange dude. That he's not also, it's like he's not 100% present. There's like a thing going on in his head that he's not talking about. You know, you meet those people and they can't actually talk.
In his head.
I'm telling you.
What is that?
It's like a little, like a little insect that's on a bicycle. That's what I'm sorry, this show's degenerating into nonsense.
Completely degenerated, and it started out so well.
Oh,
with us
do you know
talking
what?
about porn.
Here's a story. I know. We could go back to that if you want to. Model prisoner and Charles Manson disciple Leslie Van Houten has been released from prison. Now, if you ever followed the Manson story, and even if you just watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, did you?
Listen, of course.
Okay. You know the
Of course.
you know the whole Manson thing.
The Manson story. And there are so many people in Hollywood today who all have a
link.
of some
Yeah.
sort, all have some kind of peripheral.
Right.
Who else has a really weird Rick James. Rick James also
James had
has a Charlie Manson
No.
family.
Really? How's he involved?
Rick James, Charlie Manson.
Jesus, look that up. That sounds amazing. All right, so the story is that this Leslie Van Houten, she was a follower of Charles Manson. She was also part of the 1969 murder spree, which involved Sharon Tate, remember? She was 19 when she joined Manson's group. She was a disciple and then was released from prison on Tuesday after more than 5 decades behind bars. California prison authorities said that she's now 73. She'd been behind bars. She'd been behaving herself. She hadn't been, murdering other prisoners or doing
So,
any bad things.
so here's
Rick James.
Rick James's story,
Let me
how
hear
he
this.
avoided this. One
Mhm.
of the wildest Rick James stories. So it's in a documentary about him, right?
All right.
And because he had a hangover, so he didn't go to the party.
Oh, but he would have been
He
there.
would have been at the party. Like,
He
yes.
partied so hard he missed out on a Manson party. Listen, Rick James has just gone up in my estimation. I love this.
Oh, listen, Rick James, bitch.
I love that guy. All right, now I like him even more. Go on. What else can you tell us?
Oh gosh.
If your fact about Rick James is more interesting than my fact about Salma Hayek's husband, then you win the show this morning. Well, let the audience decide. Ryan, put up a poll to say what's more interesting. That Rick James
survived because he had a hangover. So he didn't go to the dinner party where everybody, including pregnant Sharon Tate, was killed. That is a story.
Fine. Pumi goes with her Rick James story. just put up a poll, Ryan, to say which was the most interesting new fact you learned from this morning's show. A, that Rick James very nearly went to a Manson party. Or B, that Salma Hayek is married to the guy who owns 3/4 of the
So he
world.
says here, so one afternoon, James says.
By the way, can I show you what Rick James? Wait, let's just remind people, since we showed a picture of Salma Hayek, it's only right that we put up a picture of Rick James. Here we are, motherfuckers. This is what you get for waking up early this morning. This.
No, but this is Rick James in the later years.
Oh, come on.
This is Rick James in the later years. Rick James was a funk master. Okay.
No, he was great.
Rick James was a funk master. But anyway, so Sebring, I don't know who Sebring, came to his home and invited him to a big party that Sharon Tate was hosting at her and Pollock's home.
Right. That was the house she got murdered in.
But James says he was so hungover that he just went back to sleep and he was just like, yeah, dude, right?
Yes. I like him.
He says, so her friend really, really phoned later to say, dude, are you coming to the party? And she really wanted me to make the scene. Rick James recalls in his memoir. I did too, but my temples were throbbing. Usually a couple of aspirins are all I need. In this case, though, this headache just wouldn't go away. See, the headache saved him.
If partying
Saved
so
his
hard.
damn life. Listen.
So what do we say? Option one.
Rick James
surviving the Mansons.
Because of a hangover.
And option two, Salma Hayek's rich husband. Which was the most interesting fact you learned this morning when Phumi and I were just trying to keep it together while cameras were going on and
It's
off.
Rick James, bitch.
All right, well, if you say so. Rick and Phumi win, says Sarah. Rick and Phumi, says Slippery Pickle. It's already starting to roll in. All right, well, I thought that telling you about who Selma's married to. But alas, it's not interesting to people. Who knew? All right. We'll see. This may change. We'll put the poll up and you can go and vote. All right. A couple of things, Pums. Since we're talking about the Manson thing, did you watch the meeting in Vilnius between all the world leaders and Vladimir Zelensky?
No, I did not watch the
Oh, you
meeting,
didn't.
but I did see the picture that's been
Shame,
making
yes.
that's been making the rounds on social media where he's just standing
He's
there
standing on his own.
all by himself.
He's like he was invited to a Manson party, but
and there
nobody
those
wanted
two
him there.
girls. Who are the two ladies that are like deep in gossip
One of them
next to him?
One of them is Macron's wife.
Why? Really?
Yeah.
Deep in gossip. And nobody is even looking in the direction.
The other one is
of
Salma
Zelensky.
Hayek, I think. Or Kim Kleisters. I can't tell. They look so similar.
Those two girls, right?
Yeah.
Are having the time of their life. Whatever it is that they're gossiping about in that picture. But because they are having such a great time, and Zelensky is just standing there staring into space.
So sad.
I think
the shine is coming off of that whole story now. Because remember, they had him on the cover of what was it?
Everything.
Everything.
They had him
Vanity
on the cover
Fair
of everything.
And everything. And he was such a big hero in his fatigues. He looks stupid now. He really does. He looks stupid now. And you know why? I'm not anti-Ukraine. I'm not pro-Russia like Kanthan. But he would hate us saying that in his absence. But I do think the Western media have been fawning over this guy for such a long time, trying to sell us something that isn't there. And most people in the world, especially people in South Africa, I think, do not give two shits about what happens in the Ukraine and Russia. But even if you know a little bit, you should know at this point that there are people dying needlessly because of the egos of Vladimir Putin, primarily, who's the aggressor in this case, and Vladimir Zelensky, who they won't sit at a table, sort this out and start saving lives. Instead, they'll carry on. They'll push this war. They've both got an agenda to keep proffering. It doesn't look like there are any off-ramps coming. And I think that that's just pissing people off now. If they know what's going on, they're pissed off because these guys aren't getting together and sorting it out. There's no end game. And if they don't know what's going on, they go, why are you trying to sell me this guy as some kind of hero?
You know, when we were in Washington, we went to Arlington, to the SIP.
Yes. Wow. What a place, huh? Isn't it spooky?
It is unbelievable to me that that place exists and America actually have a physical place they can go to and see the absolute waste of human life that war is.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they continue to be such a warmongering country. It's amazing to me. Like in every direction, they are just
graves
and graves and graves. And it's just, I asked one of the security guards there, and he said they have about 30 funerals there a day.
Jesus. You'd think that people would go
30 funerals a day.
This makes me think, I honestly can't, I don't know what's wrong with people, because you know that scene from Ants where the locust stands up and goes, we cannot allow that one ant to say that this is bullshit, because then it'll give the other ants permission to stand up against us.
This is bullshit.
And this will change our way of life. He said, it's not about food, it's about control. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing a locust here. I can't believe this is what the show has come to. But that's correct. Like if you're burying, 30 people a day?
30 people a day.
From international wars that are being fought by healthy young men for greedy old men. Someone's got to go, hey, we're not doing this anymore.
It is astounding.
Sickening, man. The hell's this?
So we were also there.
And the same goes for Russia, Ukraine.
This is the similarity of watching because they also have a tomb of the unknown soldier, and they have a changing of the guard.
Right.
There. I think it's like a 4:30 or whatever. They have their changing of the guard. And so we were there to see that as well. And what was also so fascinating for me is as America stands and says they're completely on the opposite end of what Russia stands for and is about. That watching that changing of the guard and having been to Moscow and their tomb of the unknown soldier and watching their changing of the guard, same damn thing.
Yeah.
I was like, y'all are the same.
Stupidity on both sides.
Same damn thing.
Well, here's the picture of Zelensky in case people didn't see it. Here he is. He's just waiting for someone to talk to him. It's not Macron's wife. I don't think that is. I think one of those is the Finnish president.
But do you see what a good time those two girls are
Oh,
having?
they are catching up. Oh, sister, you look so great.
These heels.
Oh my God. They should be like selfieing each other at that point.
They are like,
wow.
So, and he's just standing there.
Oh,
and
he's
it's
looking
like
so sad. And he's so short. I didn't realize how like tiny he is. I mean, he's shorter than both those women.
Yeah, but they're also in heels.
And he's like, fuck, someone talk to me, please. I look like an idiot.
So what do you do when you're at a party and you don't know anyone like
I
this?
get on my phone.
Just that picture would look even worse if he
was
had
on
his
his phone.
phone.
Yeah,
that picture would look worse.
Yeah,
if
but
he
I'm
was
not.
on his phone.
I'm not looking for international publicity or for people to approve of me. I'd get on my phone because I'd be like, these people are boring. Let me find some others.
This is me walk away from this.
Anyway, I don't know. People are voting. We will find out what happens in the poll. It's 7:00 now. We'll come back with the burning platform in just a second. Phumi and I are here. It is cliffcentral.com on a Thursday morning. It is all happening. And if you haven't told everybody else about this show, you need to get on that. You are our marketing team. Do your goddamn work.
And
like
also
and subscribe. Come on, people. We get up, we get here. We've got cameras going on and off. Ryan's running in and out.
We were ready to break down the door.
Ready to break down the door to bring you this show. Do your bit. Come on. God's sake. Like and subscribe. I expect nothing less. And then tell at least 5 people that you know that they're missing out on this show. What the hell else are they? What are they?
Because they weren't listening to this
They're
show,
still listening to
really
you, CBS? What are they doing?
They really don't know how cool Rick James is.
Exactly.
And that he's in a fight for his life with Salma Hayek.
What other show is going to tell you about Salma Hayek's husband or Rick James at a Charles Manson party? Come on, get on it.
Hi, I'm Barrett Edelstein. Join me for my podcast, Celeb Savant. Today, I'm with Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
So right at the moment, I'm at home in London, but after I speak to you, I'm going to pack my bags.
3 of the members of UB40, Earl, Matt, and Jimmy.
Well, we're in the middle of a tour at the moment.
A career retrospective with actors, singers, and entertainment industry experts every Friday morning at 9 o'clock on cliffcentral.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast. Anyway, what are the most expensive extras that you have come across?
So the first one is with regards to Rolls-Royce's umbrella. We've all seen Rolls-Royce, the little umbrella that comes. You get your stock standard umbrella and then you get a proper Rolls-Royce umbrella.
Oh.
And the proper Rolls-Royce umbrella, guess how much that costs?
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
That is a very crafty move by George Meany in the Auto Trader podcast to not tell us how much that Rolls-Royce umbrella costs that goes in the door.
I just saw that and I was
Yes,
that's such a great place for an
Isn't that
umbrella.
nice?
That
In
and
the car door.
you know what I wish they had? Umbrellas that fold upwards for when you get in the car instead of down.
You do get those.
Upward.
You
I need
get
to- where?
umbrellas. You get
Is it a
umbrellas.
Rolls-Royce umbrella?
No, I don't think so. But now I want to know, so I'm going to have to listen to the podcast, what the umbrella costs. Just the umbrella. Forget about the rest of the Rolls-Royce, right? I mean, I'm not going to be able to afford that, but just maybe I can have the umbrella. Do you ever go into one of those high-end stores and think,
It's right here in Melrose Arch.
no,
I
no,
love
no,
it.
I mean overseas. If you
no.
go into the ones overseas, because then it's an adventure, right? So you go into the flagship store in Fifth Avenue, for example.
The
and you go-
Steinway store in Berlin. I went.
Oh,
I went.
Steinway.
There. Yes, sir.
But you can't buy a small piano.
No.
See, I will go into those stores and I try to find the cheapest thing in there. Like if you go into, I don't know, some fancy designer store on Fifth Avenue, and you find a little card holder, and it's still like, I don't know, $1,000 or something. But you do think about it. You're like, well, this comes from here. I'll never forget. I bought a pair of sunglasses at Yves Saint Laurent in Rodeo Drive
No.
in Beverly Hills.
Wow.
Well, I was 23, 24. And I thought, got to get this.
Rodeo Drive.
Yeah, I got to get this. Bought those sunglasses. I've never worn them since.
Were you having a pretty?
Still got them.
Were you having a Pretty Woman moment on that Rodeo Drive?
I did feel a bit like Julia Roberts. I felt like a prostitute, yes. I mean, especially when instead of them paying me, I had to hand over some solid dollars.
And the solid dollars then
But
were
I-
not like solid dollars.
But I
are
don't.
today.
I mean, I now look at these sunglasses that I wouldn't wear them anymore. So, do you want a pair of Yves Saint Laurent sunglasses from Beverly Hills, Pums?
From when you were 24.
Well, maybe you like them. Maybe they suit you. Who knows? I'll bring them in for you. You could take a look. All right.
This is the morning you're having family, Cliff Central family.
Yes, this is the morning you're having. It's a particularly bizarre morning. We're going to be talking about politics in just a moment. For those people who only come for that, I mean, I feel sorry for you. But if you do only come for the Burning Platform, and this is why you're here, do we have stuff for you? We've got such a lot to talk about today. Big Daddy Liberty, who has been a guest before and is himself a regular podcaster and media personality. He's well known to most people. You can find him on the internets at Big Daddy Liberty. His name is Sihle Ngobese, and he has regularly been a contributor to this show. We're going to ask all kinds of questions. So Dori sent me
And
a
today's an interesting show, right? Because we don't often do this, where we do news headlines on the show. We often have this is going to be
We often have a
fun.
guest and we focus it on the guest, but I think we're going to do something different today because there are a bunch of questions that. So Dori sent me this message. She's the producer, and she sent me a message last night and said, "What do you and Sihle and Phumi want to talk about?" And usually I'd say, "Oh, well, we'll just go through whatever's in the news." But I threw together a couple of things that I want to talk about today, and it's interesting to me that we don't ask these questions on the regular because we should do. This is what politicians are there for. What new laws have been passed in 2023? Do you know?
So I don't know what new laws have been passed in 2023. I don't know a lot of them, but I will tell you this, which was a ruling handed down by Concord yesterday.
Okay.
ARTO Act.
Yes. What about it?
And this is the act. Remember that a couple of years ago,
Have they approved it?
Concord handed down saying that it is valid. So
Oh, no.
in the next 18 months, they tell us that there will be a
Point system.
demerit system that is apparently also integrated nationwide. So remember the e-Natus platform was supposed to also, because you could drive from here to Durban and like rake up all of those tickets
Yeah.
in KZN when you remember they had that campaign that says Alufakwa. Right, that don't mess on our roads, and then you'd come back to Joburg and never think about those tickets because they couldn't track you down.
Correct.
Because the system was fragmented.
Now we'll have a national system.
So now we're going to have a national system
Ugh.
that integrates all your driving anywhere in the country, and there is going to be a demerit system. So this was a judgment handed down yesterday by the Concord.
I certainly hope that we get a little bit of information ahead of time because I want to know what the system is, exactly how many points you have. Because I'll tell you what, there's always a way around these things in South Africa, right? There's always going to be some corrupt official you could bribe. But if there's a national system, I can't believe I'm arguing for corruption here, but if they put you on a database and you are not able to drive.
What it will do is it'll
Fucked.
make it difficult for you to hire cars.
Mm-hmm.
Because those guys are sticklers, hey, for handing down.
Oh, yeah.
those
I mean, they all
rules.
have e-tags, for God's sake.
Yes, those guys are sticklers for those rules.
Right.
But it will also, it has the potential to make a criminal out of
All of us.
us.
If the
For slight things too, hey?
Yeah,
for
because
slight things too.
well, this is why we need to know exactly how the system works. Because if, for example, you have a speeding ticket because maybe you were going 15 kilometers an hour too fast on an 80 kilometer per hour stretch of road at night when there's no one else there, and that counts the same as being pulled over for drunk driving. We've got to know how the system works. How many points do you have to spend? How do you, is there a period in which all of that kind of disappears historically? like a statute of limitations.
But also, what does that mean where we have such bad signage? I drove down to KZN over the weekend. I drove down on Friday.
Can you take demerits off of the government
Yeah.
for bad roads?
Like also, you'd have a sign that says it's 120 kilometers here. And then just about a kilometer and a half, it becomes 100 and then 80 because there's an intersection or whatever. But before, you had a sign that shows you that the 120 is ending, and then it's going to. But there, now you are in an 80 kilometer.
I feel like we should have George Meany on the burning platform.
No, really.
Maybe he can tell us about
because
this.
these are also the things that, these are the things that insurers use. To up your insurance.
There are real world things that are going to affect all of us because of this ruling. And of course, the Department of Transport must be thrilled, because for them, it's a way of administering things.
One more way of milking
and tender
milking us.
Yeah. And they can issue some tenders here and make some money for friends and family. Anyway, I suppose we will see what happens. And again, just accept that a huge part of this is going to be massive incompetence by our government. So even though the system may be a good idea, it would work in Switzerland. Will it work here? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I am curious, if anybody in the audience knows what actual laws have been passed in South Africa in 2023.
Well,
because
also
it's hard to figure these things, right?
Also, the new Electoral Act was passed this year.
Okay, so that's one. And are we happy with it? Do we know anything about it? Why don't people talk about this?
I think that one of the things that we don't talk enough about is who are these people that are signing, that are debating these laws. And you actually have to think that those people are the Makaulas. Like Makaula is sitting there in Cape Town, and that's what she's supposed to do. And for as long as we don't
pay attention
at the bare minimum, but also put yourself there. We need more South Africans putting their hand up to be in those.
Here are a few bills that are on the table at the moment. These are bills that are currently in Parliament. These are being discussed and debated and looked at. So actually, there are a bunch of them. The Judicial Matters Amendment Bill, Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Amendment. They always put one of those in.
Of course.
Sneak one of those in, right? The Responsible Spending Bill, South African Post Office Amendment Bill. See, I mean, most of these are just nonsense because...
What? Tell me about that post office, what?
South African Post Office SOC Limited Amendment Bill. Bill 11 of 2023.
Well, I wonder if that's going to still hold now that the post office is going into administration.
Well, this is to amend the post office so as to provide for revised duties and expand on the mandate of the post office, provide for repurposing of the post office infrastructure, diversified expanded services, and exploit the infrastructure capacity. This is all such nonsense.
And listen, they're going into administration. All of that stuff doesn't matter.
This is such rubbish. Okay, so here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had 41 bills tabled since 2018. Just 41 bills. That is it. Among them have been the National Youth Development Agency Amendment Bill, which of course has amounted to nothing. The Maintenance Amendment Bill, which may actually have had some effect.
Maintenance of what?
No, it would be maintenance in marriages. So it'd be maintenance.
Maintenance. Where?
Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill. That was back in 2020. That only came about because the guy from the IFP died.
Man, not because he died, Gareth. It's not because he died.
No, man. He was advocating for it, and then it was part of his. It was palliative care that he wanted marijuana to be legalized, and listen, that's been a real change. But honestly, can you tell me in those 41 bills that I've just mentioned, and really you could do a quick Google search yourself. This is not higher grade. Phumi the kind of person who would read these bills, but I glance at the top level stuff. I think that Parliament is probably sitting on its hands most of the time. Cyril's certainly not pushing anything, is he?
I'm not. Listen, I've made a personal decision about the number of times I'm going to complain about Cyril, particularly on this show.
What's your
So
what's
I
your
don't want
ceiling?
to. I don't want to.
What's your limit?
I don't want to squander my quota. Okay, not squandering my quota on that one.
All right. Very good. Well, I don't know if we're going to get an answer to that question, but it's worth looking at because that is the whole purpose of Parliament. The legislature in South Africa, the reason we go and vote, remember, we vote for Parliament. We don't vote for a president in this country, and we don't vote for the judiciary. The judiciary are appointed by the Judicial Services Commission. They recommend people. The president then signs those recommendations, and those people become judges. But we have a direct responsibility in South Africa. The reason we go to the polls is to elect members of Parliament who are then meant to create laws. And it's the executive's job to execute those laws. So somewhere, somehow, we've got to get back to the basics of how the system works. Basic civic education would be a nice start. Here's a trick question for you, Phumi, while we wait for Sihle and or Kanthan. I don't know who's joining us now because we're trying to get hold of both of them.
But you know what is a good exercise? And I know this sounds like a geeky thing to do, but we are in an election year and people should really consider doing this, is checking what the various people stand for, what the various parties say they stand for.
You know what?
And then looking at your own personal value system.
Your plea is falling on deaf ears. I can tell you that right now. People, when last did anyone read a manifesto?
No, but I was thinking about this. It's important. So maybe not even just the manifesto.
I agree with you.
Maybe even just knowing who the various people that are being tabled, because these lists have to be made public, right? They have to be sent to the IEC and whatnot.
Right.
Because I can tell you for free, as the people of Joburg, we are horrified at a Thapelo Ahmad becoming the mayor. The people who voted for Al Jamaa knew that's who they were voting for. They knew that's who they were voting for.
Yeah.
They may not have known that they are voting for him to eventually become mayor, but theoretically, anybody that's a councillor can become a mayor, right? But because we didn't know who Thapelo Ahmad was.
So you get the government you deserve. But I've got a really important question here. And I want you to deliberate long and hard on this one, Phumi. What has, as a woman in South Africa, right? You're a woman in South Africa. What has the Department of Women, Children, and People with Disabilities done this year to justify their existence?
I don't even know who's in charge of that thing. No, this is not. I'm not being.
Come on, Phumi.
I'm serious.
If
I don't know,
we're going to wait for another cabinet reshuffle. There's going to be a new minister put in there.
Where I hope Kanthan comes on, because Kanthan.
You know what? Your wish is my command. Here it is.
Kanthan said, "Oh, a cabinet reshuffle is imminent." And
I've got to point out.
Wait, before we even go there, Kanthan, I'm asking a serious question. Anyone in South Africa who can answer this, including the minister, who Phumi and I have no idea which minister we're talking about here, but there is a Department of Women, Children, and People with Disabilities. I just want to know one thing they've done for any of those groups. One.
You know, I was going to make the point that Phumi was saying just now that anyone can become a mayor. Well, anyone can become a woman. So
this is true.
Yeah.
Point.
So I think,
Kanthan, we know that you actually did run in an election, so maybe you should just put on a wig, some high heels. I mean, you already look better than 90% of the cabinet ministers just by doing that, and you're not an attractive woman by any stretch of the imagination. But you could go and become the Minister of Women, Children, and People with Disabilities.
I wouldn't have a clue what to do in that position, because, you know, my entire idea is that if you actually have a democratic meritocracy, then women will automatically rise to the top in that scenario. And this entire idea that you need a ministry for women, as opposed to actually creating opportunities from the ground up, is just so fundamentally patronizing.
Yeah,
you know, there are so many of these. So why do we need a minister of finance, a minister of economic development, a minister of public enterprises, and all of these things? They all need to be under one portfolio, and they should be.
Even tourism needs to be in that portfolio. It doesn't need to be on its own.
Directors general then report directly to the minister. And the minister's job is to actually ensure that those apparatchiks on the ground actually doing their jobs.
All right. So obviously I picked on a really stupid ministry, but we asked the question, how many new laws have been passed since Cyril became president, or even in this year? And the number is kind of sad and pathetic. There are obviously certain committees in Parliament that do their job and others that do not. But we're doing a bit of a stock take today. So we're doing a, what do they call it when they take a business and they do a whole analysis of the business? They break it down.
SWOT analysis.
SWOT analysis and company profile and all that stuff. So we're doing this about the country.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
There we go. So, I mean, we'll leave strengths.
Our strengths are our people. Our weaknesses are our government. Our opportunities are to take control of our resources. Our threats are our government. Can we move on to the next question?
But how many, I mean, we think about these things and we usually are a reactive society. So we respond once we turn on the tap and there's no water. And then we think, oh, well, why isn't anybody? But it's government's job to do forward planning. I mean, that's what the Chinese, they think in decades and in centuries. And our government can't even think yesterday's problems away. But how many schools have we been building recently under Cyril now? Because Cyril's administration,
we've shut down 900 schools just in KwaZulu-Natal.
There we go.
Alone.
These are the things I want us to talk about this morning. So we're doing a little bit of a stock take. 900 schools shut down in KwaZulu-Natal. Look at this headline. I wish this was a joke, and I wish this was what was that channel called the Guptas used to run?
ANN7.
ANN7. I wish this was ANN7, but look at this.
Yeah, no.
There's an actual headline. Look at this. Nearly 300 councillors from KwaZulu-Natal unable to read or write, but it's spelled RIGHT.
Possibly this particular news agency has the same problem.
Yep,
oh my God.
Is this news from Africa?
God help us. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, but let's just look at the headline without criticizing the poor intern who had to type up that strapline. Nearly 300 councillors in KwaZulu-Natal are unable to read or write. Guys.
It's a Freudian slip, guys. Come on.
I mean, it's just appalling. All right. So,
no,
so no new schools, and we've closed down a whole lot of schools. What about hospitals? What about universities?
No,
the biggest obstacle in terms of
no
of
new universities
by the way.
and higher. Oh, sorry, Kanthan. So no new universities, but almost across the board, there's leadership crisis. There's a leadership crisis at UNISA. There is the VC at Forte has to have bodyguards, two of whom have been killed this year.
Jesus.
Like there's.
All right. What if? I mean, we had the Gautrain. How many dams have we built? We talk about a water crisis. Are there no new dams?
Do you have a cricket sound?
Yeah, guys. Yeah, I mean, let's be clear that the water crisis, the primary cause that we've had, and Gareth, you might recall we had Anthony Tilton on the show where we talked about this. The primary cause that we have right now in terms of the water crisis is the fact that for 30 years of ANC rule, the water infrastructure has not been maintained. And estimates say that up to 50% of the water that is being produced is being lost through seepage that goes into the ground as a direct result of the fact that the pipelines have not been maintained.
Right.
But all of this comes back to the question of ham and cheese. One of the classes that I used to teach to the various people that I've been teaching over the years was the concept of economics and why it is that, countries in, let's take Russia and China as a very specific example. If they do not spend the entire winter months every year preparing, the entire summer months every year preparing for the winter, they will literally die in the winter of cold. Because, I mean, that's a reality in terms of the climate. So here I am right now in the middle of winter in Johannesburg. It's 7 degrees in the office right now, but, I'm in a T-shirt.
Yeah, coldest week of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, but...
you're not going to die.
I'm not going to die from exposure in 7-degree weather. But if I was in China, if I was in Russia, all of Europe, if you did not actually train yourself as a culture to spend your entire summer months preparing for the harsh winter months, your civilization would die. Now, throughout Africa, by and large,
are you saying there's no urgency? Is that the?
There's never been urgency because it's not imbued in our culture, because we've never had the life-threatening exigencies that would actually drive us to do that type of thing. It's a very different thing in the mountains of Lesotho, I must tell you, by the way, because because you will die in Lesotho if you do not actually stockpile through the summer for the winter.
I just want to go back to something someone's just pointed out in the comments. I want to give them credit for this too. This is a good point. Oh, so Ryan is busy trying to sort out guests and figure out all kinds of things this morning. Poor Ryan is dancing on such a moving carpet today.
Today is a very busy day for Ryan.
So I just want to get to the comments quickly, because someone said here, quite rightly, we talk about no universities being built, no schools being built. AfriForum built an entire, AfriForum and Solidarite built a university called Soltech in Pretoria from 10 Rand donations. This is the kind of thing that, again, civil society and particularly interest groups like these are doing more than the government. With all that government money, they're unable to do even a tenth of what an NGO is doing. This is hugely embarrassing. The reason I'm asking these questions, though, I do have a point to make here, and I'm glad that Kanthan's on this morning too, because I know that between the two of you, you know enough to at least answer some of these questions sensibly. We are looking at people who are just in government that are mired in so much bureaucracy and or fear and or corruption and or incompetence. But it's mostly those categories, that there is just no forward motion whatsoever. I asked about schools. I asked about laws. These are the basic things that people pay taxes for. These are the basic things that we vote for. These are the things that as ordinary citizens, we at a minimum expect from government. We don't expect them to hit the ball right out of the stadium. We just expect these things. We expect the game. The game is build a couple of schools, because we desperately need those. Build a couple of universities, build a few hospitals. But no, they're so busy focusing on NHI, on taking the pie as it is, this pie, it's this big, and cutting it up into ever smaller pieces and trying to get their share of that pie instead of growing the pie. There is no big thinking going on here. Am I wrong?
I think let's take the view that the solution is not going to come from government, guys. And, I know Phumi goes on regularly on the point about us as citizens taking responsibility for ourselves. I think to a large extent, you'll find that this is already happening in a number of spaces. Now, I don't know to what extent you guys have been keeping track of the homeschooling space, but it's been growing massively in our country.
Tell me about that, because I don't know.
Yeah, so essentially, what's happening is that we've got, as you know, this complete disaster in terms of access to the government school structures, because you have to get into a waiting list even if you happen to live literally next door to the school, and they'll end up saying, sorry, there's no space,
because they've centralized the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So
which they've now done with Arto as well, Phumi informs us.
But at the same time, you don't have everyone able to cough up 300,000 Rand a year to send your kid to a private school, which is pretty much what it costs in terms of good private schools. At the same time, you've got this burgeoning body of course material that's freely available online,
right?
And you've got artificial intelligence that's actually now guiding individual pupils through processes of study. And really, what's happening now is that you have within a number of communities around the country, and there's one just down the road from me, here in Buccleuch, not far from Paul Mashatile's official residence, by the way.
What is Paul Mashatile's official residence? Is that a government-owned thing, or is it his own house?
No, his own house
in Waterfall.
No,
in Buccleuch. No, I'm talking down the road here in Buccleuch. He has a house in Buccleuch. Whenever we have elections, I meet him at the polling station. Yeah, we both pitch up at the Buccleuch.
I don't think you're going to meet him next year. I think he's going to be at the Waterfall polling station next year.
throwing shade so early in the morning.
I'm not throwing shades. It's in the paper.
Guys, maybe Kanthan's right. I mean, maybe we should be trying to solve more of these problems like, AfriForum and Solidarity do. And maybe we should do more things like
Gareth,
home educate, like homeschool our kids. But I mean, here, Max Sony says, Parallel Parking says, please God, do not let the ANC build a dam. People who cannot fill a pothole must be kept away from building important structures, because that dam will probably flood and kill thousands of people in the floodplain below.
Sure. So let's talk about that again. All right. Now, I'm seeing, we've spoken on the show again about, my next project being to go off grid in terms of water, which I haven't gotten down to doing yet, because I'm still doing my homework in terms of, trying to come up with something that's a slightly dissimilar model to what everyone else is doing. But I'm certainly seeing JoJo tanks kind of flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
Just go and take a look at the parking lot in Builder's Warehouse, and you'll see them all lined up there and waiting to move up. There's, full kits that are in place. I see the guys who are drilling boreholes in my neighborhood on, practically a weekly basis now. So everyone's actually taking these steps to slowly extricate themselves from government's grubby paws at a number of levels. And I think inherently that's where the solution's going to come from. I made a proposal with relation to the Struckers thing that, we should actually get venture capitalists to fund a private military company in South Africa, very similar to what Wagner's doing, and get them to actually take responsibility for taking care of the roads and the trucks and that type of thing, and have all those companies just pay a levy directly to these guys, and they must just basically be very visible on our highways, all visibly toting high efficiency firearms, and their slogan should be, "We come in the name of peace, shoot to kill."
What do you think of that, Pums?
I don't, because we are not yet at a place where we're going to be able to shirk off government completely. I think on one side, it's a great idea to say, how do we walk away from government anything, right? So be self-sufficient, get your own JoJo tank, all of that wonderful stuff, and NGOs and. But in reality, right, why would you stand in a long queue for an NGO instead of standing for election so that you have access to the public purse and direct where that funding goes? So I hear all of these are the things we should be doing, but here is the thing that we can be doing. I was thinking about this last night to say, this show, for instance, has a couple of 1,000 downloads every week, which presumably is at least one download per person. If each one of us, say there's 1,000 of us, if each one of us spent just a little bit of our energy in making sure that we can get 10 of our friends and family, and this is a small circle of influence,
sure,
invested, interested, standing up and showing up to vote correctly, to be there, to be those lists of people that are on the AfriForum list, all of those things. So, Kanthan, and I mean, great kudos to you for having done it, with Purple Cow. But that's what we need more of. We can walk away and hope that those people will not become a hindrance in our own lives. But in reality, we are also interconnected.
Phumi, start a party. I'll vote for you. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did vote for you, Kanthan, and we will vote if Phumi does start a party.
And I'm just saying that's what we all, and the onus, because even if you were to say, ADT, and let all the logistics companies pay ADT to check, to track their vehicles and be there at Pinasport or whatever. All of those things are really a small drop in what needs to happen. And actually, we are not going to be able to get away from the fact that we are all interconnected. So you and I can become self-sufficient, but your neighbor, you live in Baklu, Kanthan, which is just across the road from Alexander, right? So what happens when all of those people in Alexander are looking at you and where you are, and because there is not a safety net for all of us, you're still in a precarious situation.
No, we're not. We're not in a precarious situation because we have, as I said, what gives me hope for South Africa is that Boers and Muslims have guns. No, seriously.
Explain that.
There are not enough of them.
That requires an explanation.
No,
Go on.
Actually, there are sufficient numbers, because the reason why the July 2021 riots did not work is because of the fact that Boers and Muslims had guns and literally barricaded neighborhoods and said, "Thus far you shall go no further."
All three of us
Simple.
say this as non-Muslims and non-Boers.
Yeah, and look, guys, let's be very clear. One should not resurrect this whole Swart Gafar bullshit that used to be the rage during that era. Our neighborhoods right now are well integrated. They're completely culturally mixed, and don't underestimate the desire for middle-class families to actually protect the few things that they've actually built up, because I see it in my neighborhood groups here on a daily basis.
And also, I do think it's probably quite a dangerous thing to assume that people in Alex, for example, or people who are poor more generally, are also going to be violently coming to take things. I mean, that's a very negative assessment of those people's character. A lot of them are hustling, struggling to make a living right now, and are not turning to criminality.
That's absolutely correct, Gareth. And in fact, the closest part of Alex to us is the East Bank. And I don't know about you guys, but I drive through the East Bank fairly frequently, because when the N3 is clogged, driving through the East Bank is a very quick shortcut, which most people don't take because they're terrified of Alex. And, the property improvements that I've seen on the East Bank of Alex going back over the past 20 years. And, interestingly, I must say that the improvements on the East Bank of Alex goes back to the time when Paul Mashatile was actually in government in Gauteng. When he was finance MEC for Gauteng, Sam Shilowa was premier, and that was the time at which you had that massive rollout on the East Bank of Alex, where you had all of the
but much more money went missing. Much more money went missing during that time.
I don't care. There was delivery. Okay, under his watch, we had delivery. We had the Gautrain. Okay, this actually was a province that was working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. That's a good retrospective.
Okay? My point is that I want a government that's going to steal 10% and not 90%. Right now, we have a government that is stealing 90%. And, do I believe that Mashatile will deliver 90%? I think he will. And, one of the reasons why there's a sustained media campaign against him right now is because all of the cadres who are stealing 90%, are fully aware that their time to eat is going to be reduced.
Yeah, because there'll be new people whose time it is to eat.
Exactly.
So, Kanthan and Phumi
once said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
There we go. Which ancestor is that?
It was Kautilya who wrote the Arthashastra going back to around about 180, something like that. Yeah.
Nice. That's a long line, Kanthan. That's a long line. All right, so Slippery Pickle asks, and Pumi's going to hate this. Kanthan, is it legal for me to campaign for voter apathy at the polls? I'll make a sign that says, voting is the adult version of writing a letter to Santa. Change my mind.
Well, I mean, the apathetic voters are already not going to be at the polls. So
they're not at the polls. What are you doing? Yeah.
Except for the fact that
campaigning
this is the
ahead
flow.
of it. Look, I don't know. I think spoiled ballots are, it's not worth the effort to get up and go there. You're registering your process, but your protest, but the idiots are going to get in any case. So
Gilscott Taran, who's one of my favorite American commentators of the Nixon age, he has a poem that he says, technically speaking, because more people voted for nobody, speaking of voter apathy, than people voted for Nixon at the time. Technically, nobody should be the president. But the flaw in democracy is that it is not necessarily the will of the many. It is simply the will of the many who vote.
Right.
So
Right.
voter apathy gives you what everybody else who voted votes for. Tapelo Ahmed.
All right. So, Tapelo Ahmed, but he's not even the current.
Yeah, he's not.
Currently, we've got that Nyaope mayor, as we called him on, I think it was Monday's show, Tuesday's show. He's called the Nyaope mayor.
He's called the Nyaope
Well,
mayor, but he's also got like fraud stories out there. But, but the point is, slippery pickle, voter apathy unfortunately doesn't work in the way that you think it will work.
He says the voters are my target market. I want to dissuade people from voting. Delegitimize the government further, I suppose. So first of all, the two opposing...
Kanthan's mic is off.
Kanthan, first of all, there's someone who says, Highball Kanthan, that is irresponsible and ridiculous, your statement. And then someone else saying Kanthan is right. So which
statement are we talking about? Because I think there's a 50-50 split in stuff that I say. Half of it is nonsense, and the other half I'm not sure.
That's why we need clarity, please, people. If you're going to say what part of Kanthan's statements are nonsense, be clear about which part they are, so that we at least know.
If it's the part about voting for Phumi, I'm sorry, I'm sticking to my guns.
All right.
Listen, all I'm saying
Phumi,
is,
now guys, listen, I want to call out
us
Phumi
on this show. If there are 1,000 of us on this show, and each of us convince 6 people to vote for what we want them to vote for, and not necessarily what other people are out.
We can't even decide among ourselves who we want to vote for.
Even if we're saying, Lalela, even if you're voting for the NFP, right? If you want to drive down and drive up the number of dissenting voices that are there in Parliament and in the legislatures. All I'm saying is at a 6,000 odd people, we will have more people than Julius is likely to have at his celebrations.
That's true.
Based on last week's
right
press conference that he had. Did you see that press conference, Kanthan?
No, I don't do press conferences because press conferences are just an opportunity for people to get free publicity. Phumi, I've got to call you on what you were saying just now.
Okay, go Kanthan, finish that thought.
Yeah, the thought, Phumi, you were saying that, the consequence of voter apathy is that we end up with Tapelo Ahmed. Actually, no. The consequences, Tapelo Ahmed is the natural result of the fact that more and more people have been turning out to not vote for the ANC and are voting for the opposition. So right now, we have the scrambling for people who are trying to get into power. And really, this is a good thing, because what it means is that the ANC has lost its grip. It is trying by every means possible to hold on to power. And, rather than saying voter apathy is resulting in this situation, what we must say is that we've actually pushed the ANC to the edge. And now what we need to do is to actually ensure that we are voting for the competent people who are standing for election, and there are still competent people there. Which, look, guys, I mean,
we are in violent agreement. You and I, we are in violent agreement. We have to get more people showing up to vote.
This is not a negative.
I agree. It's counterintuitive, right? That to think I see so much of this conversation about a fragmenting of the vote and more parties just confusing people, and that works for some opposition parties to scare people into voting for them. But actually what it does, when you have more people available for you to vote for, more choice is what we need, because then you get more people showing up to vote, and that further dilutes.
The liberal press is currently panicking because the AfD in Germany has increased its support base to 21%, which means it's likely to be running the government.
Who's the AfD? Election. Just explain to us who they are.
I forget what the German translation actually stands
for. Amalgamated.
Where do they fit into the spectrum?
They, well, let's put it this way: the mainstream media brands them as Nazis.
Oh, then they're probably just moderately conservative.
Yes, they're moderately conservative. They're very firmly nationalistic. They believe that Germany should be putting Germans' interests first.
What are they alternative for Germany?
Yeah, probably something
In the
like
English.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But and what's interesting is that they predominantly from the former East Germany, which means that they very strongly opposed to the ongoing conflict between Germany and Russia, because remember that East Germany had very strong ties in terms of Russia. They're very firmly in support of ending support for Ukraine. They want to restore ties with Russia because it was cheap Russian gas that turned Germany into the industrial superpower that they were before the Americans effectively destroyed that. My point being that when you get to 21% and people start seeing you as a point of threat, that's the way real democracies actually end up working. So this idea of needing to have parties that are pushed towards majoritarianism, no, actually, in a true democracy, which the US is not, because you only have a choice of two, but most of the European countries, they built on coalitions. And the coalitions end up working based on what they're broadly able to agree upon. So I don't have a problem with supporting smaller parties.
Just a couple of comments that I think are quite valid here. So Darren says, democracy is like a buffet. Sometimes you end up with a plate full of your favorite things. Other times you're left wondering who invited the Brussels sprouts. Quite right. KNA's problem with what you said, Kanthan, was about the Boers and the Muslims having guns is irresponsible. Voting for Phumi is good. I'll do that. But KNA, actually, the Boers and the Muslims are the most responsible firearm owners. I mean, if they have firearms that are legal, which we can assume they do.
Yes.
Yeah, then Kanthan, you know this as a firearm owner. It's a hell of a thing to comply with firearm ownership. You have to keep your gun in a
Gareth,
safe.
I must point out, I'm not a firearm owner. I'm very pro firearms. I campaign actively for the right to bear arms. No, I don't have one myself. Okay, and the reason why I don't have one myself is just simply because the responsibility of actually ensuring, it's huge. But
and they make it very onerous. Yeah.
Yes, no, but I have much respect for people who actually go through the process because they are responsible, and more importantly, they are taught when to use it. All of the criminality that happens on our streets never comes from these responsible firearm owners. Never.
Yeah. If Steenhuisen, I love this. Hardy Dave says, if Steenhuisen fasts like Gandhi and Windy retires, I might consider the DA.
Hi, man.
That's some very interesting comments.
Guys,
I think people should also consider participating in the party that they believe in the party that they believe supports the thinking that they support. Consider supporting that party too. You don't have to. Somebody said in the comments that people have other jobs other than politics. And I'm saying to you guys, if we don't ignore, if we carry on ignoring the politics, there will be no jobs.
Yeah. So Hardy Dave wants to vote Vryheidsfront Plus. Sounds like a good vote. Am I wrong?
So, and there are other ways of supporting.
I don't have a problem with the
We can support them with money. We can support them with time. We can support them with campaigning for them. Support the people that you believe need to be given the opportunity and the chance. That's all I'm saying. Support them by joining them and standing for their council.
Right.
Let me say something, Gareth, with regard to the comment just now about Steenhuisen and Windy. So there's a friend of mine who recently went through a process of having conversations with various of the party leaders. So he had conversations with Musi, he had conversations with Steenhuisen and so forth. But he asked them a very specific question. And the question was, how does South Africa's economy work? And there were these blank stares. Because none of them were able to give a fundamental understanding of how South Africa's economy actually works. And so his question was, well, then how are you going to fix it? And then their response is, well, we'll call in the experts to be able to do it. And he says, so in other words, you'll do exactly what the ANC has done. You'll call in the experts and then you blame the experts for then getting it wrong. And that is a fundamental problem because people who are out there right now, actually, they don't know how the economy works. We had that conversation last week with the young woman who is now deputy president of the ANC Youth League, where we're talking about youth employment. And then we raised the question with her, where does AI fit into this brave new world of yours? And she doesn't have a clue what that's about. But these are the people who are going to be running our economy. So
how would you have answered that question about how South Africa's economy works? Because it's a difficult question, and I don't expect politicians.
It's not a difficult question. Yeah, our economy for the past 100 years or more has been an extractive economy. It's been extractive in the sense that we've been plucking mineral resources out from the ground, and we've been shipping those resources overseas without beneficiating them. And what has happened is that the cost of extracting those mineral resources from the ground has gotten increasingly onerous over the years. Remember that we've got gold mines that now go 4 kilometers under the surface. It's absurd. So the cost of extracting those minerals has gotten to be absurd. We have not been beneficiating those minerals. We have not been playing to our strengths on the global front. So, for example,
and also because we've had cheap labor for so long, we have not kept up with international trends. I mean, if you think about what mining looks like in Australia and what mining looks like here in South Africa.
Well, guys, understand that the cheap labor argument actually goes out the window, because our labor is not cheap compared to China. Let's be very clear about that. Our labor is not cheap compared to Vietnam.
That's the point I'm making, that our labor costs. For a very long time, we did have cheap labor. And so we did not keep up with the technology upgrades that the rest of the world have done. And the cost of labor has also become an onerous. It is.
I must shoot you down.
That's fine.
We have kept up with the technology. Okay, we have the deepest mines in the world. Okay, because our guys are actually better than anyone else in the world in terms of applying the technology and ensuring that they're extracting maximum benefit from it. So the reason why, for example, the mine dumps are still sitting there, and you'll notice that a lot of the mine dumps are now getting smaller, is because our technology has actually advanced.
In fact, can I just stop something quickly? I just want to stop you because I've got something to show you, which is kind of cute and funny. It's one of those old apathy clips of Johannesburg in 1962. Here's something to...
one of what clips?
Apathy. They used to make those little things that they'd show in the cinemas before you had television. Watch this.
The Golden City, South Africa's Johannesburg. 70 years have brought a small township to rank with the world's richest cities. And it's still growing fast. A center of gold mining, of industry and commerce, Johannesburg creates enormous wealth. More than 1 person in 3 has a car, a fact reflected in the city's design. This is a city of trees and parks. There are 270 of them, ranging up to the 136-acre zoo. In the warm evenings, it's one of the delights to sit in the parks, listening to an orchestra while watching the children play. But around the boundaries of the city are huge testimonials to the energy and effort with which man has created Joburg. The mine dumps from which the gold has been removed.
All right. So as Kanthan points out, if you just watch right at the beginning of that clip, the whole of Johannesburg is surrounded by these mine dumps, and they have been mostly removed, and we're able to use that land again. And of course,
the reason why they're being removed is because they've been reprocessed, because there's new technologies.
Correct. You can find huge amounts of gold if you're just prepared to go to a microscopic level to actually sift it out, because there's still plenty of value in those mine dumps.
Yeah, but we're going back to the question of how the economy works, Phumi. So let's just stay focused.
I do want to
rather than talking about Australia.
This is what I want to tell you about mining in Australia, and having worked in the mining industry with a whole lot of companies.
We're focusing on our economy.
Look at S&P Global's mining trends report that came out earlier this year, and you'll see that Australia is currently leading when it comes to technology, mining.
I'm very happy for you, but I want to move back to the question we were asking. So how does South Africa's economy work? Phumi, why are you so obsessed around Australia? No, just chill about Australia. We're talking about South Africa.
Because they're doing something right. They're doing something right. And where
Phumi,
things
I'm
are being
trying to
done
tell
right,
you
we need to
why
look at
mining
them
is not our
and
future. And
see
you
what
going
they
on
do
about
right
Australia.
so that we can replicate that.
No,
Carry
we can't.
on.
We
Carry
cannot replicate it. That's the point. Because we can no longer be an extractive economy because we have depleted those stocks. And the economy of our country needs to shift so that it's no longer from being an extractive economy where we're simply taking things out of the ground, shipping it overseas, and that stockpile of minerals beneath our feet keeps getting smaller and smaller. We now need to shift our direction to being a beneficiating economy. We need to be playing to our strengths in that field. We need to actually be forming cartels that are going to take control of minerals where we actually have dominance still. So, for example, platinum, we still have dominance to some extent. Manganese, we still have absolute dominance. We need to actually be doing exactly what the Arab nations are doing, which is we need to be scaling back on the amount that we're extracting. We need to be insisting on beneficiating more of it because all of our manganese currently gets shipped out as ore. We need to be refining it out here. We need to be cranking up the price tags. And we need to be telling the US to fuck off with AGOA because we don't need it. Because they need our minerals more than we need.
You're going to disagree on that too, right?
On what?
On AGOA.
No, I don't disagree on AGOA.
Okay.
I don't disagree on AGOA. I mean, one of the reasons
that answers
why,
the question. How does our economy...
Hold on, Kanthan.
Hold on, Kanthan. So the reason why I don't agree on AGOA,
yes,
is if you look at, again, having been driving down the N3, you remember all those broileries that we used to have? You remember Farmer Brown chickens?
Yes.
All of those things don't exist anymore because America's dumping its chickens here. That's and lowering those tariffs and and I have to agree with Kanthan. The problem is that our politicians don't really know what they don't know. They sign things. They sign up for things that look like a good idea. And I think most of the time they sign up for things not because they look like it's a good idea, but because they get kickbacks.
Correct.
And the people who suffer are us down the line, but the economy is where it is because
that's
completely fucked with it.
That's why I'm glad you brought up this question, which was put to the politicians. Maybe what we should do when they go door to door looking for our votes, because they do in this country, they go and they do these photo ops and then they go to little meetings here, there. We should just throw this question at them until we get a decent answer. How does the economy work? How will you actually make it better? Because these are the kinds of questions, instead of saying to people, what do you feel about the land? Or any of these easy, rhetorical, ideological things that nobody cares about. Ask them actual, serious questions about the economy and let's see what they can come up with. Really? I think that's, if we've learned anything this morning, that's it. All right, I had a whole bunch of other questions, but you two have steamrolled us into a whole different ball game here.
Ask your questions.
So I just quick, I have one last thing I want to ask you. Yesterday,
wants to move to Australia.
No, she doesn't. Don't mischaracterize her. Otherwise, we'll start calling you a pro-Russia advocate.
Putting words in my mouth.
I drove home yesterday afternoon, and there was a big blue light brigade that came past me. Well, they didn't come past me. They forced me onto the side of the road while they went past. There were about 6 motorcycles, about 5 or 6 cars, and then 1 or 2 others in tow that looked like they were military vehicles or medical or whatever they were. So I can only imagine it was Paul or it was Cyril, right? Because they're the only ones who are meant to have such a big blue light brigade. But who knows? Anyway, the whole way, I thought about those people who were beaten up the other day. And I took my finger out of my driver's window and I held my middle finger up for the entire duration of them going past me. I'm sure at least one of them would have seen. And it's my little way. I know it's rebellious and stupid and probably dangerous if you consider what happened to those other guys the other day. But it was my little way of saying, fuck you, actually. I have no respect for you. I'm only getting out of the way because otherwise you're going to ruin my car. And I don't have any time for you people. I do not respect your position. I don't respect you as office holders. And I think you must know that the people of this country are sick of you. I know it's silly. It's probably not going to make any difference. Made me feel better. What do you think of that behavior? My behavior.
I think it's a small and meaningful thing that you've done, Gareth. And I'm also going to put a Ukraine flag on my bio on Twitter.
So that's what it counts for. The same thing. It's virtue signaling, is it?
Yeah. It's virtue signaling. No,
It
seriously. Look,
made me
I
feel
think
better. I felt better.
Actually, Gareth, it's not. If it made you feel better, but it was also a reflection of your attitude to these people and how they are behaving and how they've been allowed to behave. And that also translates into how you engage them, if ever you have to engage them, right? It all translates into those things. I think that the most horrendous thing for me to watch over the past week is the fact that it is even a fucking debate that people are saying, what happened to lead to that moment? What could those guys have?
There's
That for
nothing they
me
could have
is
done that deserved
mind
that.
blowing because it means that there are people in this, and for it to be this kind of raging debate, that there are people who are quite willing to stand down and kowtow to this kind of bully behavior.
Yeah. Kanthan says I'm being stupid and virtue signaling. Phumi says it's okay, I should do this. Thank you
must
both.
stand up.
See, we got a nice range of opinions. Hold on, guys, because we got one last thing to throw in here. The results of the poll, Phumi. What was the most interesting fact you learned in the first hour of this morning's show? So I threw in that Salma Hayek's married to the billionaire François-Henri Pinault, who owns all of these luxury brands. He's probably made more money out of South Africa than the Guptas did in the long run, but he made his legitimately by people buying things from Louis Vuitton stores, etc. And people did not think that was most interesting. They instead chose, by a margin of just a couple of percent, 4 percentage points, they said Phumi with her fact about Rick James, who avoided the Manson massacre. He was too hungover to go to a party at Sharon Tate's and avoided getting killed. Rick James, therefore, is the winning fact for this morning. Phumi wins the show, and that's all we have to say about that. Happy Thursday, everybody. Thanks, Kanthan. Thanks, Phumi. Thank you most especially to you. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. We will see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. Ciao. Bye-bye.